Okay, I think we're live again. Oh my goodness, we just had to do a whole new setup and hook all of our stuff up to everything brand new. So, wow, that was fun. We're still, I think we're here though. Oh, very nice. Okay, well, can you guys hear us then? Hello again.
Welcome back.
We literally ran and got a whole new computer, and I think it's actually that website though. I think it just keeps crashing. But we literally just went and got a brand new computer and hooked everything back up. So you're going to see us looking down because we're no longer looking up at the camera. How fun. Fun. We're just figuring all this out, trying to make it work. Let's see, are we live right here? And I'm trying to find it on my phone. Nice, looks better. Howdy y'all again. Yeah, thanks. How fun was all that? Trying to figure all that out. Good thing that we have
tech support.
He's
awesome.
Yeah, our kids are amazing. But how fun. So how did you get on that? That's what I'm trying to find now. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. Oh, very nice. Okay, thanks, love. You're the best. Oh, thanks, Joyce. She says you guys are worth waiting for. Thank you. Wow, that was fun trying to figure all that out.
Yeah, the question before we were so rudely interrupted. Yeah, the AUB then are supposed to take care of the
so the question, let's answer or remind everybody what the question was. The question was, how does it work with the estates of the men? Do they send, do the kids get their estates? Do the wives get their estates? How does that work? And yeah.
No, you're supposed to donate everything when you're a part of United Order to the United Order. Once the United Order has that, depending upon the worthiness of the wives and the children after the man dies, they will get what they call it's not even inheritance, it's their wants and needs taken care of until they pass on.
Right.
So if you're worthy within the AUB, they are supposed to take care of you. If you're a young man, no, you're supposed to go back out and work and build up a kingdom to donate to the United Order too. So a bunch of worker bees.
Yeah.
So that's what's being part of the United Order. So
yeah. So they do want all of your assets and resources to go back into the AUB. So I don't even know where to look now, because I feel like if I look at us, then we look like we're looking at the floor. Our camera is still hooked up to our regular computer, and we have Cory's laptop. So yeah, how fun. Thank you guys so much for being so patient. I love our shit show around here.
You can highlight still and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, random question. Somebody says, have you seen the program about troubled teen facilities? At the end, they discuss, it comes back to Mormons and wondering your intel. Hi guys, you're awesome. Random question. Have you ever seen I haven't seen it. The program about troubled teen facilities. Is that the one that we did watch?
We did watch that one, yeah. And then the kids were going back later.
And was Paris Hilton in this one? I think.
Don't remember.
Yeah, welcome.
But she became, I think, a reporter and then reported upon it. And those troubled teen places were shut down. Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
A lot of the same traumas that went on in there. Yeah, you live that when you're part of
right
in our culture. So
right. So yeah, we've seen it. Oh, thank you, Lamb. Lamb 59. Thank you so much for that super chat. Says Cory, please share some more Alice Sullivan.
Share some. I don't want to share anything with her. She was a mother. I was friends with the first wives and the children in the first wife thing. And when she came into the family, she's trained Robin exactly like her. She was the know-it-all about polygamy and know-it-all about how everything was to run and how us children were supposed to behave and dress and all of the stuff. And caused it similar issues to the point where the husband packed her up and moved her down to southern Utah, and then the other wife went to Vegas, I think. So, and the kids that I grew up with stayed up in Pinesdale. So one of them was married and the other one was finishing high school. So,
right.
So what you see, I mean, she was never on camera, but Robin learned almost everything perfect. Is she?
I think she comes on a couple of the different episodes. We haven't gotten to any episodes that she might be on yet. But I do think she comes on the show a couple of times. I'm curious about it.
Yeah. And it's a duplicate. I mean, Robin is a duplicate of her mom. She's learned everything that she possibly can about polygamy and about how to run things properly and how to be the favorite wife and all of that stuff. She learned it well. So
what I find interesting too is the age difference between Alice Sullivan and her sister and her first sister wife, the one that was married to Robert Mark. There's pretty big age gap there. And
yeah, she was the older wife.
Yeah, Alice was the older wife, and the second wife, without saying her name, was a lot younger. It seemed to me. Yeah. I grew up with her. I knew who she was, the second wife, but I wasn't like friends with her or anything like that, because she was a lot older than me. But there's a pretty big age gap. And so Alice, when she married Paul Sullivan, is more closer in age to that sister wife than she was to the Robert Mark sister wife. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, since then, Robert Mark has now lost both of those wives. He doesn't, from what I understand, he's no longer part of the AUB and no longer, but I believe Alice still does believe in the AUB, and she still is in the AUB, is what I think.
She's a good sister wife, just like Robin's a good sister wife.
Right.
So, and if you can say that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Share Bear says, Mel, is that you in the picture at the beginning of the other live? Your shit show is the best shit show. Thanks. Yes, it was me. We were trying to do, I think we're going to start sharing more of our older photos of us. In fact, I posted that, and then I was talking to my mom about it, and my mom's like, do you even remember what happened in that picture? I'm like, yeah, it was my very first day of kindergarten. She goes, look at your dad's face, how unhappy he is. And my mom pushed what she wasn't supposed to be pushing and took me to my dad's office because it was my first day of kindergarten. And we were not allowed to acknowledge our dad in public. And so I couldn't even acknowledge him as being my dad. I had to and we had to stand there and wait for everybody to leave his office. And then my mom was like, okay, get in the picture really quick. And so I sat on his lap really quick. My mom snapped the picture, and then that was it. And I wasn't able to say, love you, Dad, or anything like that. But my mom wanted a picture of me on my very first day to kindergarten. Yeah. And so that was it. It was brutal. I remember my dad, the wife that was married right after my dad, she was the public wife, if you will. And so I was not allowed, her kids were allowed to call him dad in public, but we were not. And so we had to just forego that. And her kids could know to do that, but we were not able to do that. So let me go back up here and try to catch up. So I will repost that picture on this live, since we'll probably scrap that other live. What a joke.
She's going to put up a picture of my Faja.
I was going to, So, and Corey's like, why do you want to put one of me and my dad? I'm like, because you guys definitely look more polygamous than I looked at that time. So at that time, they didn't have a polygamous temple quite yet. Mm-hmm. And so not everybody dressed like the prairie garb and stuff like that you see now. And so they basically dressed pretty normally. It wasn't until they had the LDS or till they had the polygamous temple that they started to dress more polygamous like.
Yeah. Except for our family, because our family was told that we should all dress as if we wore the garments. Yep. And so our parents made us dress in the long sleeves. And so it wasn't till we got to come down to our sinful grandparents who were part of the LDS church that we got to wear shorts and t-shirts. And it was 106 degrees down here. So,
yep. Somebody says, what did you call your dad? I didn't really address my dad directly that I can really remember. I avoided it because it was so, he was scary. And so I didn't really directly address him that I can remember. I called him dad any other time, but I remember calling him dad one time in public, and I got in a lot of trouble for that. And so I didn't really address him like directly. If I needed something, I would say to my mom what I needed, and then my mom could tell my dad, but I didn't really directly. Hopefully that makes sense.
Ours, it depended. If he was talking to you, it was yes, sir.
Yeah.
for us. But yeah, we called him father or dad because we grew up in a community where everybody knew everybody. And we didn't have to keep it as secret or as hidden. Everybody knew everybody up there. There was no real outsiders. And so, yeah, we called him, hey, father, or hey, dad. But then if he was like, do you understand me? I'm like, yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. It was all military stuff. So yeah, it was kind of cool.
And I just didn't address. I remember one time I was probably like 5, and I was standing at the top of a really long driveway, and my sister, they were allowed to call him dad or call him daddy. I never used that word daddy. And I remember at one point I was yelling at him, and he wasn't hearing me, wasn't listening. I was like, dad. And finally I yelled daddy. And I had this overwhelming amount of shame that washed over my body, because I was like, I'm not allowed to call him that. And I felt stupid, and I felt dumb for even referring to him as daddy. And I instantly backed that right up, and I just ran away and went and hid because I felt so stupid for using that.
Good answer that one.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm seeing a ton of questions about my mom. She's doing really good. She's coming up this weekend, but she's not going to stay with us. We already have some other family members coming into town to stay with us. So, she's doing really well. Thank you guys.
How are they able to keep the boys in these families married when so many women are given to just one man? What happens to the boys that aren't able to marry? At least inside polygamy. They don't keep a lot of the boys within polygamy. They don't.
No, they get rid of them as quick as they can.
They are encouraged to go out, usually to the LDS church. Sorry, LDS church, and get a first wife and teach her about the gospel, and then they can start looking. I guess that would be that would be their way of, or if they can teach and get a couple wives from the LDS church to come back. So that's what they're encouraged to do. They're not encouraged to marry within the AUB, probably because most of them are related. So, and yeah.
Well, and then the next question is, how do you become a member? That's about how you become a member. Is somebody comes out into the big world, and then they find a partner, and then they bring them back into the AUB.
They teach them, and then they can come back and learn the fullness of the gospel, supposedly, and then ask to be a part of it. But usually it's because you know somebody within the AUB, and they vouch for you, I guess.
Right.
Or want to marry you. So if you're a young lady trying to get in, it's pretty easy.
Easy.
If you're a guy, you gotta know stuff. So know somebody within to invite you in. So
somebody says, Mel, do you think your dad would still take a call from Robin and counsel her if she called him now? And how do you think Cody would feel about that if she did? I think he absolutely would take a call. I think he probably does still take calls from her. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it would frustrate Cody for sure. But I think that he absolutely does call her, or she does call him, and they do converse still. Now, I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to my dad, but I'm pretty sure that they do that.
Well, or she would probably call and talk to her mom, and her mom would put in a good word for her because she's still good.
Oh,
She's
Alice,
still,
if she called Alice. No, I think she'd just call my dad directly. They had a close enough relationship that I think that she would just call my dad directly.
How do we get Cody in there to get a leadership role and find some other wives? So
yeah. Somebody says, what do you call your father now? I just call him dad if I talk to him. I don't Cory. Cory's dad passed the day after my birthday 9 years ago. So they just barely had that anniversary.
Call him dad or father still.
Yeah. So and
I call him
dad.
I called him dad all the way up. We had a good relationship. At the beginning of my life, I have good memories, and definitely after I was an adult and chose not to be a part of it, he reached out, and we reached out and communicated and built a good relationship. So especially up to the end of his life, really had a appreciation for him and everything that he kind of went through. So very similar circumstances. So.
Yeah. And if I do talk to my dad, which I don't really do that often, I just refer to him. My Down syndrome brother that was disabled called him father. And so he was so angry with my dad all the time. And he'd say, father did it. And he didn't really speak. He was mostly nonverbal. Or if he did speak, it was really hard to understand what he was saying. And so, but you could clearly understand father did it. Because he was so, And so this is a great question for me because all your neighbors knew you were a polygamist because they were all polygamous too. Mel, do you think your neighbors growing up knew your family was polygamous? Yeah, I think they all did.
Yeah, if they're Robin, they definitely did. She has Polig Radar. So yeah.
Okay, we're laughing about that Polig Radar comment. That was so funny to me because I'm like, really? I mean, but I feel like I do too. I feel like I can see certain people and be like, oh, yeah, those guys are 100% polygamous. And then he's like, Cory's law, what makes you think that? And then I point out different things that I see. Let's see. Mel, hope you and your mom have had some time to talk about what it was like to be cancer and what it was like to raise a developmentally disabled child within the AUB. We've been trying to get my mom to write books about this kind of stuff. And so I think that we're getting closer to getting her to actually do that. So she's
putting stuff together.
Getting closer to that. And let's see, are you planning a live reaction to Cody's video interview with Mormon Live on YouTube? Yeah. So somebody, and it's probably you, Allison, I've been going through and screenshotting some of the questions that we want to answer that are in the comments. And that was one of them. So we watched it, but we didn't focus on it. We were so busy that it was playing in the background in our office. So we didn't really sit and watch it per se, as we did just kind of ever so often we'd hear something and we'd both wait, stop. Okay. And then we'd turn to it. He did not just say that.
Well, he rips on that one. I was laughing at that interview because he's ripping on my friend's mom, the first wife, as if she's the problem.
I know.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you got that wrong. Everything that you just said, that's the second wife problem. But everybody has a point of view on which wife was the problem wife. So
right. And he's like, oh, I would never. And then
delete that out.
Delete that. They're
live,
like, you
buddy.
Moron, this is live. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, I'm gonna have to explain to Robin's other mom why I was ripping on her on a live. So that's actually kind of funny. So
all right, let's do this one. I think this one's great. So yes, we will do a live reaction to that video. This summer, we've got a bunch of like I said, we've got a ton of projects we've been trying to work on, video wise, but because everyone's like, now the Sister Wives is over, what are you guys going to talk about? I'm like, oh gosh, we have a plethora of things.
Yeah.
How do women in families like Alice and Robbins manage to avoid learning the budgeting, canning, couponing, home economic skills that Christine was raised to be skilled with? Well, I mean, if you're napping or you are out sunbathing or you are out shopping, those classes can get missed pretty easily.
Or throwing around your purity bracelet. So yeah.
If you're out throwing around that purity bracelet, then yes, there are locket. It was a locket.
Oh, locket. Okay.
Then yeah, you won't have any time to hit any of those things.
Well, and I'll tell you why. Because
oh gosh, here we go.
That was not a skill set that I remember Alice having to pass on to her children. So where those skill sets were in the rest of the family, we all learned how to can and put
even
away
the boys
food.
did.
Yeah, we all learned how to do that, but that's the pretty wife. So she's off doing other stuff. So wasn't getting down and dirty in the cleaning and cooking and all of that stuff. Didn't usually have a cook week. So yeah. So or if she did, it wasn't the most desirable food to eat. So yeah, my dad had 9 wives. I think there was a process of about 4 cook weeks that moved around in a month. So
the other 5, they did not get to cook for the family.
So, yeah, there was no cooking.
Well, then you wonder at some point, are they going to poison us?
Which ones?
Yeah,
that's
some of the wives.
So yeah, it was like, oh, it's a cook week, 7-day fast. Here we go. So, but yeah.
So I think it's funny because I think it really just depends on who they are. If they learn to do all these skills or not. Because I have a younger sister now. I would say she cooks better than I do now, but yeah, she didn't sit around for all those lessons. It was me. But I think it's funny to listen to some of these women, like for Cody to say on one of the episodes, and we've only seen this clip because we haven't seen that episode yet. You don't need to know how to cook because you're pretty. Gosh, I wanted to reach through that TV and just slap the hell out of him over that comment, because it's just so, it's just degrading to her as a person. Like, you don't need skills, you have the looks, and that just pisses me off.
Yeah, she didn't have that label either. I had befuddled, handsome.
Okay. Someone says, I'm blocking out that interview, all the different times he asked them to edit it when it was live, the host eyes darting back and forth. Yeah, we're going to have to go back and rewatch that, and then we can do a video on it. We were saying in the previous live that was such a shit show that we just got done filming season 3, episode 9. And that's been a fun one. That was a fun one to go through. The Browns go to Boston. And so we're going to upload that after this live is over. Yeah, she says, I'm befuddled at how handsome Alice getting to be labeled as the pretty
younger.
wife.
I should have said younger. So
the younger one. Yeah. So
yeah, she was younger. So
because I was actually going through a bunch of photos online of Alice's sister wife, Paul Sullivan's first wife. And she's actually really pretty, and her daughters are beautiful, stunningly beautiful. And so that's what I was telling Cory. Yeah. Paul Sullivan's first wife.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she's really pretty. I mean, she's older now, but based on just even what her children look like, I think. And so Mindy, the one who is Robin's nanny, that's her grandmother.
Yeah.
So and I thought she was beautiful. So yeah. Somebody says also Christine's mom is knockout babe, and she still cooked and canned. Yeah. I always thought that she was beautiful too.
Well, and it was a skill set handed down from the previous generations. That's why we learned it. Her mom and her dad came into the AUB. So I don't know where they came from, probably the LDS church, but they came into the AUB, and we, as good children for the AUB, were always down there doing the manual labor. We were cutting wood. That's where, because everybody had wood fireplaces. So we were cutting wood and stacking it. We would put together canned food, do stuff like that, and then would go up to the mercantile, and then these people would go get their coupons or whatever and get that food. So we helped out their family a lot when our family helped out the Mark family a lot when they first moved in, and then she left.
And the Mark family is Robin's original bio dad, for anyone who doesn't know that.
She married into the Sullivan family and moved south. So,
right.
Yeah. But we helped them out a lot when they first came in. So,
yeah, I did a lot of chopping.
But apparently didn't teach them how to
do it themselves.
Cook and can and budget.
Gosh, I haven't canned. I used to can every single year until Cory and I got married. But I was also a stay-home mom in my first marriage. I stayed home with my kids. And then had to start working when I got divorced. And so then I just kept working when Cory and I got together. And I don't think I've canned once since you and I have been together. In 25 years, I don't think I've canned at all. I'd have to relearn how to do it. But somebody says, would you consider interviewing Jade and Jeff's? It would be interesting to see two prophets' kids talking to each other. That would be really interesting to see. Yeah, we could look into that. So that's another reason we're trying this new program that kept crashing, is because we want to be able to interview and talk to other people.
I would be interested because I saw a little Snapchat where the Jeffs were talking to the Kingstons and what they thought of each other. I'm curious what they think of the AUB people. So
yeah, that would be,
it would be interesting to see what their thought pattern. I'm sure they thought the AUB was more worldly, but of course they didn't come up to Pinesdale to see us. So
yeah, Pinesdale is definitely more along the lines of the FLDS.
Yeah, the Jeffs.
And so a lot of people will see those pictures of Robin and they're like, no, she's part of the FLDS. But that's how everybody in Pinesdale dressed.
Yeah.
We in Utah were a lot more modern, if you would.
Blended in.
Somebody says pretty doesn't last forever, so canning would be a good thing to fall back on. Maybe show a little ankle while you're that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're gonna get to Shoe 004 says, I'm sorry, but I can't understand how Robin would be considered pretty or hot in any fashion. Compared to Melanie and her sister, she's just very, very plain woman, and I'm not trying to be mean.
She wasn't considered that. That's why Cody.
Yeah.
Most people didn't. I don't know. Most people that I grew up didn't. I mean, but we were all kicked out, so we didn't know what true beauty was, I guess.
Well, and in the AUB too, I mean, most of the girls didn't wear makeup. Most of the girls didn't wear, I mean, you were just very plain and very simple, which is probably why I still don't do a lot of that kind of stuff, is because it's just, I hate spending money on makeup. It just pisses me off. But a lot of that is, and then when you get some of the inbred, now I personally, do not quote me on this. I'm going to say this on a public forum, but I don't know. I think Robin has now had plastic surgery because her nose is now straighter. It had a big crook on it before. And so I think she's done a couple of things to herself, which, I mean, more power to her. I'm not judging that one way or the other, but I definitely think she's done more things to make her face look softer. But what's interesting is now she looks more boxy. So her jawline is very boxy. And I'm not trying to diss on somebody's features. It's just, I definitely can see a difference in the way her face looks now versus when she first came in. What are you smirking about?
I love how you're trying to explain it.
So yeah. Okay. Catherine says, seems to me, this pretty trophy wife thing also happens with serial monogamists, rich and powerful men who divorce and remarry trophy wives. Yeah. What's interesting too, I kind of have a little bit of a about that. Because my ex-husband, because my family married into the Allred group and we weren't born and bred and inbred a million times, we were considered the new blood. We talked about this on one of our videos, new blood. And so the Watsons, which is my dad's last name, the Watsons were considered trophies. And if you could get a Watson, that was a huge accomplishment, right? And they just went down the line, and I was the next one. And so my ex-husband just wanted to marry me because it was a trophy thing for him. And I've said this in a couple other videos where him and his best friend, his best friend actually dated or hung out with my aunt, who was the one just older than me. And they all wanted to marry her. Then she picks her choice, and it's not them. And so, yeah, they come in and they flip a coin to see who gets to date me. And my ex-husband won that coin toss. And somebody did ask me in the questions, was that a better option? And way better. My ex-husband, as bad as he was, it was the best option out of the two. And nothing against the other guy. It was just, a lot better. So, I was considered a trophy wife. And the minute that he got me, it was like, okay, boom, she's pregnant. She's sick. She's thrown up all the time. We're done with her, set her aside, and out looking for wife number 2. And then he goes out looking for wife number 2. And the girl he already had his mindset on was a pure blood, blue blood, whatever you want to call it. Her ties go super deep into polygamy. And I thought she was okay looking, like there was nothing wrong with her appearance in any way. But now he won the contest by getting the Watson girl. Now he'll
that had a family tree.
Had a family
instead
tree,
of a family stick.
A wreath.
Yeah,
just goes in circles.
Whatever it is.
So it is true. The trophy wife is a thing, and it pisses me off because I've been referred to as the trophy wife, and it just makes me angry because of how true it is. So hopefully that was not like too much of a stutter.
So that makes you my trophy wife.
You're welcome.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah. I actually think you're a trophy husband, but
thanks.
Lamb says, remember Alice taught her daughters how to make your husband a best customer rather than teaching them about taking care of your family.
There you go. See?
Very true.
That's so different skill sets for different wives. So
Yep. Different skill sets for different. Well, that's funny.
Yep.
Let's see. I don't know if you've seen the episode, but Mary actually called Robin Cody's trophy wife. Once they were all sitting on the couch, she said Cody deserved a trophy wife. I actually think that was Christine that said that, because I saw that clip and it infuriated me. Oh, Cody deserves, because what does that say about her as a person? What does that say about her as that she's, and I guess it all depends on what's important to you. Is feeding your family, nurturing your children, loving your children, hands-on parenting, are these things important to you, or just the way somebody looks?
Yeah, trophy wife is not always a compliment.
No. Yeah, somebody says pretty doesn't last forever.
Yep.
So, I already read that one out loud, huh? What were you going to say? Sorry.
No. Trophy wife sits up on the shelf. So
yes. Yeah, right. I'm too busy. I got shit to do. I can't sit on a shelf and look pretty. I got things to do. Is the Kingston group the one that murders all their polygamous competitors? That would actually be the LeBarons. Now they created a Hulu documentary series called Daughters of a Cult. So I highly recommend you go watch that. I've spoken to Cecilia, and I adore her. I know she comes on and watches us sometimes. So hi, if you're watching, but her and her sister do the commentary on this documentary. And it really goes in and explains.
So what happens within these groups there was the original group they call 12 men, the 12 apostles. And then usually what happens is the head apostle dies and that group splits into 11 groups. And so Kingston's, LeBarons, there are all sorts of different groups and what they call themselves. And they just split and follow, okay, I'm following this apostle. No, I'm following this one. And then the next generation comes up. Each one of those apostles call 11 more men to be in their group. And so it just blows up. And so AUB just happens to be one of the bigger groups. The FLDS were a bigger group. The Kingstons were a bigger group. And they're all here in Utah hovering around the LDS church, where some of the other groups have moved to different places.
Right.
So, so you don't hear much about them. So,
right. Okay. Thank you so much for this, for the super chat. Share Bear says, I think you guys would make great interviewers. Yeah, thank you. I think we're starting to get a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
Now, if we can get our tech crap worked out, then maybe we could do that. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We're getting it.
We're definitely getting there. Oh, someone says you don't even need makeup. That's nice. Thank you all. I love it too, because both of my girls are not with makeup wearers either. So I have appreciated the fact that they're just not into it that much either. And so I've just never had a use for it. I wish I would have appreciated it more back when I really didn't need it. Now I'm a little bit older and I do need some of it.
Yeah, I need my glasses, or you need to highlight that one. Yeah.
Which one?
You just look. Yeah.
Her jaw would crack a broil nut. Oh my gosh, that's funny, because I was saying her jawline's very square.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird because it's almost like her bone structure's changed.
Or a brown nut.
Her what?
Jaw can break a brown nut. So,
oh gosh.
What? Curly headed.
Movie. Somebody says she certainly added eyebrows and eyelashes. Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
Mel, you are Cory's trophy. That's a good thing. Oh, thanks. I think we're both lucky. Let's see. Oh, you're getting all the congratulations for your trophy wife.
Thank you guys.
Let's see.
I think we're pretty equal, and so she married into a good family too. I like my family, and so
yeah,
I like hers. So
yeah,
most of hers. She likes most of mine.
I don't think there's anyone in your family I don't like or get along with.
No.
I think we get along with all of them. All right, let's see. What are you saying?
Nothing. I'm just laughing at these guys. They're awesome.
I like to think of myself as a participation trophy wife. Congratulations. You sure are married. That's awesome. Thank you. That's funny. Let's see. I want to get to this one. Does the AUB or its members take any precautions to avoid harmful effects of inbreeding, or do they just trust the prophet of God? Okay. Yep. Cory says.
There you go.
That is a tricky question, because we do know a lot of people who have married first cousins.
They're trying to change that in some ways.
Yeah. It's definitely not like the order. That's for sure. It's not as severe as the FLDS. That's for sure. Does it still happen in the AUB? Yes, it does.
Because they're huge families.
They're huge families.
When you're getting married and nobody changes their last name, and genealogy is really easy. So
yeah. Let's see. Somebody says, if Cody had stayed in the AUB, do you think he would have went for 5 or 7 wives to move up in heaven?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if they're going for leadership position, they need 7 wives, a quorum of wives to make leadership. So they might lose some here and there, you know what I mean? But as long as they don't get a release, as long as they got what do they call it? A quorum of wives with a majority of them, 4 of them, in harmony with him, then they're good to go. So they've made it. So you got to just have 4 of the 7 still around in harmony.
And if they're passed on, then they're technically in harmony. Yeah. So that works.
Yep.
Yeah. It looks like a lot of you guys have watched Daughters of a Cult. I thought it was so well put together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Is polygamy growing or diminishing with the events of podcasts like yours? I think I'm curious about that, to be honest, too. Because it feels like, especially in the AUB, with the last prophet before my dad, he was accused, some of his children came out and accused him of some pretty horrendous crimes, like essaying them. And that caused a lot of splits off. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't even just that. It was the prophet before him skipped over and skipped over and skipped over, and then made him the prophet when 2 people were in front of him that should have been the prophets or should have been the successors. And he just said, nope, I don't want them to be the new successor. So we're just going to skip over them. And so that caused a lot of splinters and fractions. And so that's what you're going to see in these groups, is that each group, now I might eat a lot of shit for this later, but each group is an apostasy from an apostasy from an apostasy from an apostasy that originally apostatized from the Mormon Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Is that how you'd say it?
Mm-hmm.
People might come in my comments and be like, we're not an apostasy, but
they're the true line. They have to have that belief system that they are the true line to track all of their genealogy and priesthood genealogy back. And so they just have to believe that this guy did get anointed by that guy and told them that they should start a new group, or that they were the leader of the group and the other people apostatized from them. So each group thinks they are the true line and everybody else has apostatized from them. But each group thinks that. They each think they are based on their priesthood genealogy, that they are the true line.
The real true line.
And that's why you have. So do I think it's diminishing? I don't think it's diminishing. It's probably staying just as strong, but not necessarily all in one group. They just keep growing and growing. And then as a generation grows up, majority of that generation leaves and doesn't believe anymore, but they keep producing 39 kids, man. That's some of them are going to stick around. So
I know, I don't know why my face is like glowing. Why? We don't even have an extra light on. Trying to figure that out. Sorry.
No.
But your sister Katie's on here and she's watching with her mom. So one of Cory's other mothers is on here.
Hey, Mom.
And my mom is also on here too. So we can even get some questions for that. I want to answer this one. Let's see. Have you heard of the John Taylor 1886 revelation being released by the LDS causing an excitement in the AUB? Oh, it's causing a buzz along every polygamist. It now feels
validated that now they're like, see, we are the chosen.
Yep.
We are the chosen group. Every one of them now. It's a validation for them.
Yeah. So this is the actual document that made polygamy that the church has been denying for almost 100 years that
90.
Yeah, that ever existed. And so the church has denied that this ever existed. Now, I've been hesitant to get into this kind of stuff because I'm not a church historian. I don't have a lot of, knowledge that way, but I do have some friends that do have more knowledge about this than I do. And so we have talked to them about maybe doing a live with us, doing a Q&A and a live with us. And they said, yes, they'd be willing to do that.
So most polygamous people have based their belief off of this, but they're believing in faith that this does exist somewhere. And now it just revealed itself. So their faith is renewed that they have been believing in an actual document that does exist. So
it was very validating. Every polygamist on the planet probably felt extremely validated when that came out.
Planet. Every polygamist that have their roots in Mormonism.
Oh, well, true. Yeah. So, sorry. Anyone who has their roots in
Mormonism or the LDS Church.
Very true. Yeah.
Just barely went, see?
We were right. we told you guys that this was the truth.
Yeah.
So, but of course the church had to deny this in order for the state of Utah to even become a state. And, the government was really cracking down on them. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Angelic. Yeah, I look angelic. I know. I don't know where this is coming from. It's not like I have a light on me or anything. I mean, we have the overhead light, but that's it. So, let's see.
Your dad shining down.
Katie says it's because you're the daughter of a prophet. I don't know what I said for that. Sorry. What is the document about? The document, so the LDS Church or the Church of Jesus Christ, I always try to say all of them because I get so many people in my comments. Have some respect and call it what it actually is. So I try to hit all of them. But it's a document. It's called an 1886 revelation from John Taylor. So when Utah was trying to become a statehood, trying to gain statehood, the federal government was cracking down on polygamists hard at that point. And they were saying, Utah will never become a state as long as you guys are living polygamy, as long as Mormonism is here. And Cory's better at this than me. But so
they were going to start confiscating church-owned properties and their temples, things like that. They were going to confiscate it. So that the church came out and said, we are no longer living polygamy. We're making it. And then they did the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and kept living polygamy. And this was a document that John Taylor had, what would they call it? But it's a document or a revelation that the polygamy, since it has been called back to the earth, somebody would always be living it with the correct keys.
Right.
Even though the church was disavowing it so that they could keep their properties and still continue as a church, people were set aside to still live it with the church.
John Taylor,
with the knowledge of the presidency.
Right.
And then eventually they got to it. The next generation was like, no, we trust that last prophecy that says we're not living it anymore. So, and then I think it was lived in secret, but a blind eye was turned. And I could be wrong. Church historians can tell me. Yeah. But then eventually the church was like, no, you will no longer live it. And a lot of the people that were being excommunicated were referring back to this document. We're doing this because John Taylor said that we needed to still do this. And the church was like, yep, too bad, you're excommunicated. And
the church claimed for years that they had no knowledge of anything like this. Meanwhile, they've had it in their archives and they just have never brought it out. And then they finally quietly slipped it on their website.
It exists.
A couple weeks ago. Yeah. And so now
beginning of this year.
Yeah. So now everyone's going to it and reading it. And so in the AUB, every September, we would have a conference, like a general conference type thing. And it was a huge event. It was one of the most sacred weekends. And they would do a conference where they would do a big, huge dance, a ballroom dance. A lot of people had lightning bolts hit them and they were the only people on the dance floor. If you listen to Cody Brown, but, they would do these big, huge ballroom dances, which I absolutely loved growing up. They were one of my favorite activities to go to.
No, I didn't, because, what's his name always got first pick.
Who?
So the Valiant Warrior.
Oh, the Valiant Warrior that's on here. He's a true blue blood. But we would celebrate this document or this revelation every September. And it was a really big event. And then they would have different church meetings. They'd have priesthood meetings, and it was all, and then they'd have a bunch of historical items that were laid out across tables for people to come in and see. But it was a secret meeting that John Taylor had with a few other people. And that's where he had this revelation that just said there would not be 1 year that goes by that somebody would not enter they call it the new and everlasting covenant of plural marriage or celestial plural marriage. And so, John Taylor issued a few men to keep that alive. So,
and most of their documents that the polygamous communities had were just this person.
Look what my mom just said. I'm even more royalty than I even knew.
But they would write it in their journal, just like she said.
Right.
So they had journal entries that this document existed. People said this document existed, but nobody had a copy of it. They didn't have copy.
I think this is my Bateman line, right, Mom? I think that this was this a Samuel Bateman, and not the Samuel Bateman now who has been convicted and of, horrendous crimes against children, but
great grandson.
Yeah, I did. In fact, I kind of think I remember hearing that, but not I don't know that I would have remembered that. Thanks, Mom, for for telling us that. Oh, yes. Yep. It was my great grandfather, Samuel Bateman, who was in that meeting too.
So yeah, they all based it off of those journals, but nobody had the exact journal or document. They just wrote it down in their journals that they'd seen or heard this, and so that's what they're basing. And now they're saying that document existed, and now that document does exist. So, and has existed the whole time.
Right. And so the church just released this after 100 years of denying that they knew anything about it, that they had anything to do with it. So I think it's a little, So Spooky says, I know people are now asking if the church has the ordinations of the men to practice it in private. So I'm curious about that too. A lot of times they won't. No. But a lot of times what's happening is what I've been told, now I could be wrong, I don't know the church officials, I don't know the official stance on it, is that when one man has a wife that dies or passes, and then he gets another wife, she's sealed to him in the temple, and that's how they believe polygamy has gone forward in the LDS church. But a woman cannot do that. So if a woman's husband passes and she's sealed to him and she remarries, then she would have to get a release from that man to be sealed to the next man. But if it's reversed, the men can just have as many women sealed to them as they want. So hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. Let's go here. Are fundamentalists the apostasy, or is it the Mormon church the apostasy? It seems fundamentalists stick closer to the first two prophets from an outsider.
Yeah, it depends on who you're talking to. So if you're in the LDS church or Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, whatever it is, then the fundamentalists are the apostasy. If you're within the fundamentalists, well, AUB, it's not necessarily that they're an apostasy. They just hold the keys of the Aaronic priesthood to perform certain things, and the AUB is holding the keys to the Melchizedek, which is a different set of keys to the Melchizedek priesthood. They're taking care of the higher laws, and the AUB believed that someday, and they would always pray about this, that the church and they would come back together.
Yeah.
But I don't think the church would ever, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but that they'll come back together. But then that would be weird, because then that would mean that there would be two prophets in one church. So
yeah, I don't want to see that battle. Who's the right one and who's the wrong
I think
one?
the LDS church just considers them apostates, where the AUB doesn't necessarily consider the church an apostate.
Right.
They're just carrying on the lower laws of the church. So
right.
Yeah.
So Spooky Micah says this revelation was given on September 27th, 1886. Correct. And so that's why the AUB always celebrates this the last weekend of September every year. It was a big to do. And we've gone over this in other things, that these were the ballroom dances where you had to be 14, because, 12 in the AUB is just way too young to get married. So we're not going to let the 12-year-olds come, but 14 is when people can start checking you out. So you could start going to these dances when you were 14. And to
learn how to dance,
and to learn how to be a lady. And so I loved it, because we would make our dresses, we'd sew a new dress, my best friend and I, and
sell baking goods to show that you could cook.
Yes.
All the cool stuff.
It's true. Very true. Okay. Are the common members of the AUB, FLDS, Kingstons, etc., allowed to watch YouTube videos? Not going to convince me that the leadership doesn't watch, though. Sorry if I missed the answer phone. So I know that there is a lot of, hey, stay off this. Hey, don't get on these pages. Hey, the internet's dangerous. There's a lot of that kind of stuff in the AUB.
Misinformation.
Right. As for the Kingstons and FLDS, I don't know, but I would think that there's not a lot of encouragement for people to get online, as well as I know there's not a lot of encouragement from the AUB. Now, that being said, it pisses me off, because we'll get 1,000 likes on one of our videos and like 20 freaking down likes. And we were even talking about that. I know people watch
the AUB watches.
They watch our videos and then summarize them for my dad. I've had to block a few people because of that, because they have no interest in hearing what we have to say. They're
just reporting in.
It's just a report, and and they watch with anger and frustration. And now what are they going to say with their hand on their hips as they're watching us? And so it does get very frustrating. And there is a lot of talk that goes around, oh, don't listen to her, she's just an angry person, which I don't think I'm angry most of the time.
You were angry at the very beginning of this
I was angry with our tech. I won't even lie.
Yep.
But I was grateful that we had a kid who could help us fix it quick. But yes, I think there are a lot of people who do watch this kind of stuff. I watched a couple of things with Amanda Ray from, she's got her own channel. I watched a couple of her things over the weekend too. I think there's no way that the leadership isn't watching what people are saying and speaking out about. There's my 2 cents on that, but it gets frustrating because it feels like there's always a way to manipulate the story. See, these are the people that we warned you about. See, these are the people that, because they swayed away from the Lord, now they are bitter, angry, and now they're trying to sway other people. So there's always a way to twist that narrative and make it sound like we're just the bad guys trying to convince the whole world to, everyone in the AUB to get out. And that's very frustrating. But there are still, I've had dozens and dozens of women reach out to me from the AUB that want to leave, that don't know how to leave. And so I've helped them and pointed them in the right direction. So let's see.
I like that one.
This one right here.
Why can't plural marriage be the other way around? One wife and many husbands. There's probably a group for that. It's just the AUB doesn't believe that version of it. So I'm sure there is a fundamentalist group out there that you just have to look. So
yeah,
I'm sure there is a fundamentalist group out there somewhere that believes that way. So
yeah. So, okay. So Nathaniel Bateman shows up in the LDS release. Okay. So this is the great grandfather of mine that was in the 8-hour, they call it the 8-hour meeting because that's when he received this revelation. John Taylor received this revelation, the 1886. And so my little brother that had Down syndrome was actually named after him. So his name was Robert Nathaniel. And I believe my mom named him after this great grandfather that was in the 8-hour meeting. So yes, my parents are their roots go very deep in Mormonism as well. This one, I love this one. So now the LDS church is trying to say that the new and everlasting covenant did not mean polygamy. That's how they're trying to spin it now. Where that's my understanding was that was always in reference to polygamy is the new and everlasting covenant.
Well, it's in 132 of the DNC that they still have. So,
right.
And yeah, they're updating they're getting revelation from God all the time. So they updated that, we're no longer doing polygamy in 1978. They updated it to let everybody be a part of the LDS church because previous to that, they didn't. So their main based belief systems have slowly been opened up, loosened up to be more of a mainstream religion,
right?
And get rid of the stuff that they weren't. You can only grow so big. Apparently, 10,000 when you're living in a group like this and a teaching like this, and so as things change, you change some of the belief system through revelation only. People. And so now no longer do you live polygamy. Now everybody can have the priesthood. Every male can have the priesthood. And so they're still excluding females from having the priesthood. So it'll change. It changes. And so, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right, I'll answer this one. I love this one. Have you ever shared the meaning of your name? Notes to self 444. So when I was younger, I was 17, had my first baby, right? And he was very colicky, very cry baby. And so my ex-husband would make me sleep on the couch with the baby because he needed a good night's sleep because he had to work the next day. So I would sit out in the living room with the baby I'd go upstairs and sit in my mom's rocking because we lived in my mom's basement. We had our own little apartment in my mom's basement. I'd go up and sit in her rocking chair, or I would sit down on the couch and cry all night long because I didn't know how to take care of this baby. I'm 17, right? So one night I'm laying there and I decide I'm going to watch TV, and all it is commercials, infomercials. And one of the infomercials that came on was a Carlton Sheets real estate one, and how you could manifest your dreams by making these notes to yourself. And I felt like my whole life I made mental notes to myself. I was like, oh, hey, I want to be like this woman, or no, I don't want to be like her, or wow, she's crazy. Do not be a sister wife like that. So I would watch all of these older, people in my life, and I would make all these mental notes. Well, this Carlton Sheets ad that I watched said, write them down. And so I had never thought about that concept before. So I wrote them down and I started placing them everywhere in my house, and of things that I wanted to manifest in my life, things that I wanted to have happen in my life. And so then they said the most important one is the one right above your head, above your bed. And so I would do that. And what I was doing was actually my weight, because in the polygamous group, it's so important that you always stay fit and healthy. And well, I had a baby. Yeah, I had a baby. I'd gained some weight. My ex-husband let me know how heavy I was and how out of shape I was. I was 17. And so I put this number all over my entire house, and that became my default weight for years. If I'd lose a little bit more than that, I'd go right back to that weight. And so it felt like it was like a testament to me that it did work. And so so that's why I started. And my kids, it's funny because when I first came out with the podcast, my kids were like, I remember all those notes. So I literally have like sticky notes around my computer. And one of my favorite quotes was, please, give me the courage to show up and be seen. And I would put that little quote everywhere. And so I always just made these notes. So that's when I started a podcast, I was like, this is what I want to name it, because I didn't want it to be strictly about polygamy. I wanted it to be about healing and how do we move forward and how do we, heal traumas in our life. So when I Googled notes to self, there's a million pages with that name. And so I decided to look up the numbers for manifestation and transformation, because I transformed. I don't even recognize the girl that I used to be.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's a great number. Because that's a manifesting number. That's a transformational number. And so I just said all the notes to my, notes to self 444, because I created these notes and transformed my life into something totally different.
Yep.
Hopefully that, So that's
personal meeting.
Yeah. I wanted it to be really personal to what my experiences were. And I wanted it to be broad enough that I could talk about things other than just polygamy. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. But so sorry to take talking so much about this, but it just must be wild for it to drop with not a peep from the LDS causing. Yeah.
Well, to be honest with them, by them dropping it itself, anybody who is within the LDS church, they'll probably get people, oh, this is oh my goodness. And then, I think maybe you may see, I'd be interested to see a surge from the LDS church into some of these groups because of that. Might not happen. I think most people are surging outside of the LDS church at this time. So, So,
let's see.
But they might get some into the AUB by dropping that. So
yeah,
they definitely made the AUB validate. And it's not like that they just put it out there. They didn't make a big deal about it because they knew every fundamentalist out there was watching, waiting. So hoping to see something in what they were dropping. So
Right. Okay. So this one, I mean, well, we were growing. This one says, which group is the closest to the original church established by Joseph Smith, in your opinion? I mean, hello, it was the AUB. That's what we were always taught.
Yeah. Well, I never studied any of the other. I was raised in the AUB, and then, so I wouldn't, in my opinion,
I still think it is the AUB. They really do try to stay as close to the original teachings of Joseph Smith as possible. And they don't have like, yes, they do child brides to some degree, but not really. It's not as common. Like, I know we're both like stuttering, trying to figure it out. But
to tell you the truth, I mean, the FLDS would argue the same thing. They're following all of the teachings, not only of Joseph Smith, but of Brigham Young and all of their lead. Every one of them feels like it thinks they are. Every one of them have similarities to, and it all changes with each different prophet.
Yeah, right.
So,
and that's what makes it so hard to answer that question, because things just change according to whoever's, and that's why we say the AUB makes up the rules as they go along.
Well, they follow the teachings that they want to follow when they want to follow them. When a new prophet comes on, different, he's more focused on this prophet, past prophets' teachings versus other ones. And so every one of the groups feel like that they are the one.
Right.
So that is most like and I wasn't around when the LDS church first started, so I have no clue. So
honestly, though, if we were to make the most educated guess possible, I would probably say the AUB is the closest to what originally was portrayed from my understanding. But again, that's hard to say that, but because I don't know a lot of the other groups, but the AUB really does try to do the temple ordinances that the LDS do. They try to do a lot of that kind of stuff to keep a lot of the ordinances and doctrine alive. They just maybe don't always do it as successfully as they would like to think they do.
And the FLDS would argue that the AUB is too worldly. They are the more modest version of it. So, yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a hard one. That's
Kingston
a great
would
question.
argue something different. So, yeah, every one of them thinks
But
I have no
my
clue.
understanding about the Kingstons, and I could be wrong here because I don't know a lot about their teachings, is that their biggest thing that they tout is that their direct lineage of bloodline goes all the way back to Christ and Joseph Smith. And so they're not even so worried so much about the ordinances of the gospel and the doctrine as much as they are about the bloodline. So that's where their main focus
bloodline and the number.
Yeah. So that's what I understand from them. And then the FLDS.
This is why we need to talk to.
Right. This is why it'd be awesome to have a couple of different people from
see
different
what
groups.
was the most important doctrine within each one of their groups.
Right.
So.
Right. That would be great. My mom wants to know when she's going to get reported for being on my lives. Oh, sweetheart, I'm sure you already have been. No.
Yeah, the phone tree went off a little earlier, so you have been reported.
Yeah. So I agree with this one. Pink Butterfly says, actually, they were marrying married women when polygamy first started. So yes, that is true. Well, and we call it recycling because that's what happens.
Well, and yeah.
This
is where, if you
Cory could get super snarky about this.
If you study the history, all that stuff, there were women that were married to their original husbands and married or sealed to Joseph Smith too. So they had two husbands here on. So that's like I said, you'll probably find a group that does that. So
right.
So there's been documentation on all of it. So pick and choose which way you want to live it. You're going to find some sort of documentation somewhere within the church history to be able to validate
whatever
your belief
you
system.
Want. Yeah, so, anything you want.
Yep.
I love this one. I have comments. says, when Cody said that in the finale that it wasn't fair Robin's kids weren't getting the same financial resources, did he mean that the ex-wives should contribute to their monogamous family?
Yes.
That's what it seemed like to us.
They're still part of the United Order. They should still be paying into the United Order to take care of all the children.
That's what it felt like to
their
us.
children were taken care of. Absolutely.
Yep.
So,
let's see. Did I miss it? Did Cody read his list of how to be a good polygamous wife? So, okay.
Me.
It's
probably meant to be me.
Did Cory? Okay.
I don't know. I haven't done the 27 rules yet.
Okay,
so
no, we're still putting that together. Because I was going to say these lists can be non-tangible. When these husbands give these lists to their wives, they're very non-tangible because then they can never be measured. And then you never get there. And you think that you've gotten there, and then all of a sudden the list changes. And any polygamous wife can attest to these kind of lists. But yes, there are a rule book. In fact, Cory's other mother that's on here gave us that list. And so we're going to do a whole series on that. It'll just take, we're going to probably have to break that up into a couple of different episodes because, because there's a bunch of that. Let's see. If you believe in Joseph Smith as a prophet in the LDS church, then I think there is a good argument for polygamy. I'm not LDS, and the history that I learned would support it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
you got 3 prophets in a row saying it'll never leave the earth. And then the next prophet's like, it's going to leave the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So
and so honestly, each prophet, seer, and revelator has got new revelation that has changed or questioned what previous prophets have said. So,
yeah.
So you just got to pick which prophet or group of prophets that you're going to agree with and stick with them. So if you're modern day LDS church,
and that's why I think
last couple prophets.
And that's why they push so hard, follow the living prophet. The LDS church does.
Got to change, update it.
Oh, my mom says my brother Robert wasn't named after Nathaniel Bateman. He was named Nathaniel because it meant gift from God. Oh, I did know that too. I did know that. So, let's see. I know. Why do people say this kind of stuff? I can see Robin trying to get with your dad. How would you feel if Robin came into your family? Well,
not mine.
She's younger than me, so that would not be good. That would be bad. But has it happened in the past? Absolutely. Could it happen again? Possibly. No. Yeah.
I was excommunicated. I won't be a part of that family. So
yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Somebody says, what do you think about polygamy in Islam? I really have never thought about it, to be honest.
Polygamy, if you want to do it, you're a grown adult. If you're a grown adult and you want to do it, try it out. It's going to be awesome. I think the Browns showed it perfectly how it works out for you. And so, you might be able to handle it, do it. Eventually it's a hard way to live. And I'm sure there's people out there that can prove me wrong. It's just not a choice that I would make as an adult with my frontal lobe fully intact. So it's just not a choice. And I don't believe. And so my belief systems have changed completely from when I was a child. I thought this was the only way you were going to get into heaven or an afterlife or things like that. And my belief systems have completely changed. So,
and so many religions use sacrifice as a way to, hey, this is how you're going to obtain these higher blessings and this higher knowledge in the next life. And so they use sacrifice, or they use learning how to be selfless or giving up. What are you going to give up in this life so that you can obtain it in the next life? And so I feel like now that we are in a society where things do come a lot easier for people, we're not pushed for water. We're not pushed for food. We're not, our basic life necessities are met. in most situations. Now, not every situation, I get it, but in most situations they are. And so now this is where religions can double down. And I think this is where the AUB doubles down as well, is it's like, okay, it's even more important to sacrifice. It's like, we're in such an instant gratification society anymore. Oh, I want that. Great. Let me get it on Amazon. Oh, I want that. Great. Let me call home delivery, whatever it is. And so now religions can double down even more, saying, look, sacrifice your jealousy, sacrifice your, your ability to want everything yourself. Don't be jealous. And so that's kind of where I think would be like a recruiting tool almost for religions now, because it's like, do you see all the blessings you're going to obtain in the next life when you sacrifice and give up in this life? So I kind of feel like that's where even the AUB is, where it's like, no, we have to, I mean, and Janelle even says that in one of these last episodes that we just watched. We're here to overcome our jealousies. We're here to overcome our instant gratifications. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So I feel like that's where we're in a world right now where everything's at the tip of our fingers most of the time. What is it that we have to work for? What is it that we have to strive for? What is it that we have to sacrifice everything for? Yeah. Oh, eternal, life, eternal, whatever. And so then they make these promises, on stuff that they can't deliver because they don't know for sure themselves. I don't know. What do you think?
You guys believe whatever you want. I'm not starting a church. But my belief system is we each are individual, amazing humans, spirits, and we have the right to connect to our maker
however we
directly. Want. And we don't need a prophet, seer, revelator, pope, teacher. And so any religion that teaches you need to go through somebody to get excelled. My belief system, one of the nicest things about being excommunicated is I got to relearn and look for what yes, it might be nefarious revelation, but I connect to my maker directly. I don't need a prophet, seer, and revelator or anybody in between me and them. And so it might be outrageous in so many teachings and so many religions, and that's why I'm not a part of any of them. So
okay, I have comments. Says, if each man gets his own planet and the wives are there with him, does that mean they'll never see their children in the afterlife? Well, that's again, you'd have to believe in that, but the teachings is that we will be quickened by like a twinkle in the eye will be quickened, and you can go wherever you want to. So I know, right? Thanks. Yeah, you knew the reference. And so if you have a sister wife on another planet, you just have to think about her and then you're there. So no, you were able to go wherever you want to.
Travel with thought. So go visit the grandkids on their planet. So
right. And so you would have full access to, you would just all at that point, the way that I interpret it, at that point, you would just all be creators. And so here you are creating and doing whatever you're doing. You're just able to talk to each other that way with a twinkling of an eye.
Yeah, you're building universes and galaxies, and you just have a home planet. So
yeah. Are the kids allowed to go to public school? Yes, I did go to public school for most of my life, and Cory was homeschooled.
It's based on the parents, so we were.
And Cory's way smarter than me.
We were.
You are.
We had a community school and certified teachers and all sorts of things, and then had a religious base part of that schooling too, so that they felt like that they were teaching and raising their kids. Homeschooled, but I went to the community school until 8th grade. Everybody else went down to Corvallis for high school, and then our family and a bunch of other families created a high school that I went through, Pines High. I've got a picture of it. So, and we did packets, and I got the equivalent of a high school diploma, and then the state was like, yeah, you need to go and see if you can get a GED. And so I went and took the GED and got a GED. So,
Yeah.
And so I've got a Sunshine Studies diploma, a GED. I've got all the diplomas. So, and an excommunication. So they're awesome forms.
Well, and down here in Salt Lake, we did have a private school.
Mhm.
All the Brown kids went to that private school before they went public. And I actually taught at that private school for a little while. Mary's mom helped me to get homeschool certified so I could be a teacher there. And so I was able to go get that homeschool certification. I think I was 18 when I got that. I didn't graduate high school, but I was able to get homeschool certified. But Mary's mom was really nice to me that way and really kind of took a special interest in me and helped me to get that. Bonnie, back when we were.
That's my favorite.
I know. Back in the day when we were teaching there. This Cory loves this comment. Recycling. So the AUB is eco-friendly Mormonism.
It is.
There you go. None of that stuff's going to get washed out and washed up.
Cast aside. They just get recycled right back into.
Okay. And while we're on that subject of recycling wives, I'm going to bring this up just because we get asked this a lot, is that why would these women be a prize to be won if they're not childbearing age anymore? So if Janelle wanted to go back into the AUB, would she be considered a prize? If Robin did, would she be considered a prize if they're not childbearing age? If that's not the case? Yes, they would be, because they add to that man's number.
Mm-hmm.
They add to that man. And more often than not, he doesn't have to have relations with her. He doesn't have to be intimate with her. He doesn't have to do any of these. But now she's just one more number in his kingdom that he's building.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that's
adds
why
to his quorum.
Exactly.
And takes care of itself. So,
yep.
Yeah. Win-win.
Yeah. And so that's why these women are considered
or
treasures or jewels or prizes or, is because especially somebody like Robin, she's going to come in with quite the estate. So any man would be tripping over himself trying to get to her because he wants her assets, her financial assets. And then he wouldn't probably have to be in any sort of way intimate with her because if he didn't want to, he didn't have to. So hopefully that makes sense. We have answered this one a couple times in other videos. We'll do it really quick. You might have already answered this, but are you comfortable sharing about where your faith relationship with God and Christ is evolved into now? You want to take that one first, or you want me to?
I just kind of did.
Yeah.
You just connect. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the right to connect to your maker, being, God, whatever, but something that you feel inside yourself directly.
Yeah.
And you are a powerful being. So do it and connect directly. And you don't need somebody to go through or pay a tithe to make it into heaven. You don't. You are a powerful human being. So you're a powerful spiritual being. Tap into that. So
this is a horrible comment. You should feel bad about this comment. Mel, if your dad should marry Robin, could you have your new mom be a guest on your podcast? No, she's not going to marry my dad, but that's funny.
I would have to leave. It would be an interview between them two. So
we just sent her a link. We wouldn't bring her into the office.
No,
but that's funny.
If that happens, I'll see if I can interview Cody. He'll probably be very angry.
Oh, that's hilarious. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up. We get so far behind. Oh, thank you so much, DJ Tag, for that super sticker. We really appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to answer this one. Mom, hold your breath because this is going to be, sorry. Would your dad financially support Robin's spending habits? Well, I have seen my dad financially support some of his other wives' spending habits to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. So why not Robin? So I think it's funny because
he wouldn't have to.
They
got tithing.
Oh
so
gosh.
They as a community would probably support.
All the tithe payers would be supporting Robin's spending habits. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. But no,
can you imagine if she was put in charge of decorating
Yeah.
their endowment house, dolls everywhere. It'd be weird. It'd be creepy.
The
It's
temple
already
full of all
creepy.
these dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all. But yeah, I've recently seen, there's a lot of spending. My dad's got some wives that spend a lot of money. So, and it makes me sick. Cory's over there. Yeah, Tammy, I agree. Can you imagine when you get to the next life and realize polygamy was just a lie so men could just sleep around?
It legitimizes it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Yep. So, I do like this. We're going to pull that one up. The rule of Islam says that you have to be able to afford multiple wives, and Islam is not the only way to go to heaven. Yeah. See, and in polygamy, they don't care if you can afford them or not. You just marry them all and have a bunch of kids, and hopefully it works out.
God will provide.
Mm-hmm.
You marry, God will provide.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
No,
Okay.
I really did I've gotten out of the habit of studying very many religions at all. So
yeah, we should look into more, but we haven't.
I have no desire to look into other different religions. I was raised in one. I just, I don't want to try to search for another religion. They all kind of seem the same. I like some things about it, living a good life, being a good person, but I don't want to join anybody else's religion.
Nope. And so Shrinking Opinion says, did either of you grow up thinking that there were good examples of polygamous families? What do you think would be ideal or healthy? Yes. And we've actually talked about this before. The Browns, I would have put the Browns as one of the best polygamous families I had ever seen. And so I was talking to my dad about this one time when he was saying, we have highly, highly told the Browns, do not do this TV show. And I said, but Dad, if anyone could show how polygamy works, it would be the Browns. Like they're so good at it. And I mean, everybody has their problems. Every family has their problems. You smart ass over here with their smirk on your face, but they were very much until Robin came into the family. And that's really when things started going downhill from there. But I would have put them as one of the best polygamous families, the more functioning one. But do I see very many of those? No. Then one of the next ones that I would have said, I'm kind of even sad to say it, but the husband came out gay and he lost all of his wives. But I would have put them as one of the second best polygamous families because no one knew about that about him. But I would have put their family right up there at the top of being one of the best polygamous families I've ever seen. So it's hard to judge. Like, apparently I'm not a very good judge of character.
Well, in
the AUB standards,
they would say, I would hear people say, oh, your guys' family they're all living together. They're an amazing example. And I'm like, it's miserable in here. It's not. So, I mean.
Well, because a lot of people did look at your family, your dad's wives and your family as the ideal.
Functioning.
I mean, that's why Cody and Mary came to their honeymoon at your house.
That it was functioning and this is how you should see to do it. But everybody knew who lived it, that it was hard. And so, you could put on a show for a weekend, but
right. Well, in this last episode that we watched, one of the things that Cody says in there, so we just watched season 3, episode 9. Yeah. He says in there, he's worried about what his kids are going to say on an open panel.
He's afraid the kids will tell the truth.
And he's like, it's like wrangling grasshoppers. Once you let them out, you can't get them back in. And so he was worried about that. So everyone can put on a good front for a little while, but still, I mean, I knew the Browns for a while and they were very as functioning as you could get in this religion, if that makes sense. Somebody says, have you ever seen polygamy work? No. I can't name one family that I've
for 11 days.
For 11 days when Robin was on her honeymoon, that worked.
Yeah, they worked really good together with.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Oh,
Cody or Robin around.
Yeah. I'm going to try to catch
No.
up to some of these comments here.
No, haven't seen it work.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it endured to the end.
Endured. That's about
Endured.
it.
Yeah. To the end, struggled. I've seen people live it their whole lives and testify of it. I've seen all of that, but I've never seen that blissful marriage that Cody and Robin talk about. So,
but have we really seen that blissful marriage that Cody and Robin talk about? We haven't even seen it in their marriage. Yeah. I know. We're trying to be nice. You guys are asking questions that are going to make us not be nice. Let's see. So if Robin says she chooses Cody, does that mean she's left the AUB too? Oh yeah. They left a long time ago. She hasn't worn her garments. I mean, I want to say probably 10 years. But when we're doing a watch of the seasons for the very first time, and when we notice that they take them off, we will tell you in that video. So we don't know what season that is yet. We're only on season 3.
It still believes, I'm sure they still believe.
That's the first indicator.
Yeah. She might still believe in some of the things of the AUB, but yeah, and Cody had a wife release, but he's not been excommunicated. He could still be a part of it too. So them leaving is just them leaving. If they wanted to come back, they probably could get back in, especially since they have good tithing. They just have to catch up on their tithing.
Right. Okay, let's see. Do you want to answer that one?
Sure. What is it?
Curious how your parents' military background influenced your upbringing.
Or
did it not? Well, I know. Here's the second part of the question right here, right afterwards.
Oh, it means your upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure it did. A lot of the stuff that my parents did. Yeah, I feel like without my dad's military background, I mean, he went to the VA at a certain time in his life and was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yeah.
Something that I'd never heard of up until that point in time. And then like, whoa. And then they were the ones that kind of educated him that his kids could have a version of it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that probably influenced my growing up. I know how to say yes, sir, no, sir. So
he does it really well. Whenever I bark an order, he's like, yes, got it.
I was looking to look into the military at a young age, and Dad encouraged me not to, but then he encouraged other of my brothers to go to the military. So yeah, I've got brothers that have been brothers, nephews, tons of them that are all done military service too. So
yeah. Okay. Does the AUB pay tithing? Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Well, I mean,
they collect tithing.
They collect tithing.
Those within the AUB pay tithing into it.
Correct. Corey's very correct.
The AUB
and apparently, if you're Corey's
tithing.
family, you pay 20%. Those of us that had higher ranking and higher status, we only paid 10%. Corey's
Correct.
family paid 20%. If you've never been on any of our lives,
at a certain point,
I thought he was lying when he first said this, but we have since verified that yes, he paid 10% tithing and 10% surplus.
And then worked for the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then did community services for the widows and
did that on time too. And then when I took my own time to go work for myself and make money, then I would pay into the community too, because I was taking away from the community service.
Yeah. Here, we'll answer this one too. How did your brother with Down syndrome pass away? My grandson has Down syndrome, and I decided to watch TV. Maybe I don't understand how that ended, but so I guess one of the a very common thing in Down syndromes is as they get older, their throat starts to get closed off a little bit. And so they are prone to choking. So he passed from choking. It was very sudden. He was 28. He was a couple of weeks away from his 29th birthday. So I've said this in some of our other lives. My mom's youngest 3 children are the same age as my oldest 3 children. And so he's the same age as my daughter. And so his birthday was a couple of weeks after his passing, and he choked on his dinner one night, and they tried as much as they could to revive him, and it didn't happen. So it was really scary. So a lot of people don't know that about Down syndrome. So now every time I get a chance to talk about it, I love to talk about it because people don't know that, and you can do some research on it, and they'll tell you as they get older, their airways get tighter and their ability to swallow and stuff it's more constricted. And so choking is a very common way for Down syndromes to pass because they don't always understand that. And, my mom would cut up his food small enough for him, but he still, that night, he was naughty and went in the kitchen, and my mom had made him some steak, and he went in the kitchen and stole the big piece instead of the little pieces that she had cut up for him. So that was a tough one. So this August will have been 2 years since he passed. So it feels like it was just yesterday. So I reference it a lot, like, oh, he just recently passed, but in August it will be 2 years. Let's see. But thank you for asking, and definitely love on your Down syndrome. They're amazing.
They're amazing. I don't think she's left.
Do you believe that Robin will go back to the AUB? I don't believe she's emotionally left the AUB. I think physically
Cody
she has.
and the other wives have, but she's still staying faithful to her beliefs. So
yeah,
that's why she keeps asking the questions. So
right,
she's just got a wandering husband right now. So
what the heck?
He's not being controlled by the leadership. So
yeah. Yes. Yeah. Some people are saying, oh, I had no idea. Sorry for the loss of your brother. Yeah. That's why I don't mind talking about it, because I would really like to educate people that have Down syndrome family members to do the research on that, because we didn't know that either until after he had passed. And then I believe it was the coroner who told, or the doctor that did the autopsy, they're the ones who told my mom about that, I believe. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, it was shocking. We were stunned. It's rocked our entire world. Let's see. So maybe we'll do more of a deeper dive video on this one too. I'm so confused about all the different sects, if that's what the right word is, of Mormons. Who was first? Who broke off and why? How many groups broke away from the main group and why? That is like an hour-long discussion. So
the history is different for each community. So
yeah. But the basic gist of it is the Mormon Church, the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, started with Joseph Smith and, went down to John Taylor. And that's when John Taylor's the third prophet of the mainstream. We call it the mainstream Mormon Church. And that's when you started to see some of the breakaways. But
so the singing songs of the prophets,
Joseph Smith and Brigham Young and John Taylor, Wilfred Wycliffe, Rendell Snow, and Joseph. Yeah, it's a song.
So wherever her song changes from the original, that's their route that they went. So
yeah, and so I know you can go online and there's like charts where it will break it down and say, this offshoot, this one. And on top of that, there's so many in what we call independents that don't belong to a group. They're just different families that just believe.
They just have read the scriptures and they're like, oh, I don't have to follow anybody. We'll just live the scriptures this way. And so they're just individual families living that way, away from any group that they're following. So.
Right. So, but that is a very long discussion, and I feel like we'd have to have flow charts, and we'd have to be like, here's where this went and here's where this went. And I have researched into a lot of that. But it's tricky. And again, each group feels like it separated in different spots, but there is one flow chart that I'll pull up and we'll go over that one time. What are you saying? Which one are you reading?
Well, just in Islam, just you have 4 wives. I feel like every polygamist, they found, they can track their stuff back. And I think even Joseph Smith found evidence. There's evidence in the Bible that some people had polygamy. And then another version says that you're not cleave unto one wife. And so, whatever you want to find within doctrines and dogmas, you can find it in any of these scriptures to validate your belief system.
Cory's little sister says, I feel like our family had a different opinion of Cody. I remember some of my brothers always joking about how self-centered he was. Oh, he's always been self-centered since the day I met him. He, when he came off of his mission, I met him just a couple of days after he got off his mission, and he's always been that way, but his wives made it work. And so that's where I felt like he did make it work, because they made it work. And I mean, I can't imagine being married to that self-centered I guess I was at one point to my ex-husband.
You have to be self-centered.
Yeah.
And pretty grandiose about who you are and what you can accomplish to have that many wives. I mean, name me one polygamist who might not have a bit of self-centeredness about him.
Right. I love this comment too. Don't worry, Mel. Cody may realize his truth and come out eventually too. Yeah. We wonder that.
Probably be happy.
Okay. So then these are people who are saying about our people who've lived polygamy successfully. Joe Darger. Now, we've talked about Joe on our channel before. I have always liked Joe. When I divorced my ex-husband, Joe's the one who gave me a job so that because I didn't graduate high school, I hadn't worked in 10 years almost because I'd been a mom. Joe's the one who stepped in and gave me a job and kept me, made it so that I could even take care of my kids. And again, there's still the flip side of people like that is hard. It's hard for them. This isn't a lifestyle that's easy for anyone. I personally would never want to be married to Joe Darger. He's a nice guy and he's helped me out a ton. But, I think every guy in this religion has.
I didn't say that it didn't. What I was saying was to have that blissful, eternal marriage that Cody and Robin have with all 4 of your wives. So, I mean,
I think Joe tries to be as fair as possible.
I think he does too. And I think he's following the rules,
but there's still the
so that it
narcissistic
works.
tendencies that come along with this religion that you can't avoid.
Yeah, you're following the rules so that it works the best it can.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know Joe. You know him. I don't know his kids. I'm just stating it as a kid that grew up in it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it was this, you're told that you're going to go to heaven. It's going to be this happy. I mean, Cody and Robin are talking about that happy, blissful, bounce around, laying down in a garden of roses, all that stuff. And I didn't see that. I might have been blind to it. I didn't see that version of polygamy that these two have. So,
right.
And I'm pretty sure the other 3 wives didn't see it either. So they got a version that the rest of us didn't get to see.
I don't
it
care
was a little
who
harder.
you are. You will always have narcissistic tendencies if you are a man in this religion. And some women, a lot of the women have it too. So yeah, people are asking about Brady. If we thought his family
I think
was,
they're good people
I
trying
think they
the hardest,
do the best that they can.
It's a difficult lifestyle.
Yeah. Would I ever want to be in Brady's family? Absolutely not. Never in a million years. Every family has their dysfunctions. Every family has their issues that they work through. I personally, would never want to be a part of either one of those families but I never want to live polygamy either. So that's the biggest difference.
Well, and here's the thing. They've been taught, all of them have been taught that this is the way, these are the rules to live this way. You can love multiple women. This is going to, you're going to be blessed for living this way. And so I think in some ways that they're going, yes, this is the way, this is, and I'm going to make it work, and I'm going to push down this emotion or that emotion. If they were truly deeply honest, hey, would this be cool? Just me and him. I like this guy, me and him, or I like this lady doing it on our own. Yes, they probably would, but they're living a higher law. And so they're doing the best they can and living giving a good go. So, but it's a hard lifestyle to live in. So, and it is hard, I'm sorry, on the kids too, unless you're doing something that's freaking amazing. So, yeah. So that's a lot of kids to know. 39 kids is a lot of kids to know their name and have a connection with them the whole time. So
instead of getting called boy. Yeah. No, I wouldn't say that either one of those families are like hugely successful at this religion. And I wouldn't say that they're failures at this religion. I think they're doing the best that they can. A lot of people try to do the best that they can. And so, but if you hear from their children, it would be probably a different story.
If you're trying to live polygamy, this might be a good example to look at.
Exactly. So we're going to do a video here pretty soon, because there were some comments made on a video that we watched. My sister did a video recently, and some of the comments were like, we're very ignorant, in my opinion, because they basically said my sister was lying, that they know my dad personally, and that he's not the type of man that she was describing him to be. And I felt like those comments were extremely ignorant, because you see my dad on Sunday, you have no idea who this man is. You think you do because you see him on Sunday. And there's times where we would go to church and we would say, and all of a sudden my dad would shift, and he'd shift from what he was at home to what he was at church. And it was like, who is this man? We don't recognize him as his church self versus his home self. So this is why I do try to give a lot of people as much grace as possible, and then never go into a comment section and tell a polygamous child who is literally beat by their parents that they're lying or that they don't understand. That's going to heat me right up, because it's just going to piss me off. And this little self-pretentious little guy who gets in the comments and makes these comments, I'm going to make a whole video around this, because it just lit me up when I read them.
You're in trouble, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah. Because I'm just like, you don't know who this man was. You don't know anything about him. You know what he lets you see on Sunday. So it's the same in all polygamous situations. You don't know who these people really are. And that's why we say children are the collateral damage in this religion, because the children see that real side 99% of the time. But
well, and I mean, I think the kids, we have great kids in our family. You know what I mean? Great human beings, and they chose not to live that way. And and I applaud my parents for trying to live that way, doing the best that they could. I think the Browns did a great job showing how difficult it is. Probably the reason that the Brady's show didn't go off is because they weren't willing to go and
expose all their drama.
Yeah, exactly.
Because believe me, they have to have it. There's no way that they don't have that kind of drama in their family. They just don't expose it. And I can't blame them for that, you know. Put your best smile on, put your best foot forward, put your best whatever you need to do, put that out there. So yeah, that one lit me up. I'm healing through some of those things before we make the video, so that I'm not just a total asshole. But yeah, it kind of lit me up a little bit. I'm just because you see this man on Sundays, you have no idea. So anyways, there we go on that one. Did Cody ever live in Pinesdale, or could Cody and all the Browns, including Robin, live there? He never did
Sure,
live in
they
Pinedale
wanted
that I'm
to.
aware of. He did go visit there frequently. Like we said, him and Mary went on their honeymoon for a day or two up at Cory's family's house. And then he took Christine up there as well. But did they live there? I don't think they ever did.
No,
did
they had their own ranch. They had their own ranch and worked on their own ranch or United Order Win Brown's thing. So that's probably where we'd go. Most of the people that were coming up to Pinedale,
Yeah.
most of them either were founders, but most of them had some sort of skill set that the community needed.
A lot of
run
times you had to be
United Order.
invited
Yeah,
to
you'd
be
invited with you. Okay, this guy's an electrician. We need electricians. So they would be invited in, or a plumber, or whatever skill set you owned that you could add to the community. You'd be invited in, and
Yeah.
so you get a nice trailer. So
Nice trailer.
start
Okay.
out with, you had to sit in the trailer.
Yeah.
Make sure you were going to work hard and bring it into the community. So
I hope that one day the Brown children will be able to talk freely. Honestly, I
Yeah.
feel like this is for all of us. So many of us have had a hard time ever saying what's really true. If you notice, sometimes we even kind of will stutter sometimes, like, because if we said it exactly how it was, most people wouldn't understand. And it's so egregious at points that it's, you know what I mean? And so sometimes we temper what we say, unless I go on a rant and then I don't, or Cory's face gets out of control and then it says what we're saying. But yeah, it's hard because sometimes the truth is so ugly that it's hard to put it out there and for public scrutiny sometimes, because it's painful.
There are a lot of people within the AUB that believe what they're doing is the way that they're going to get to heaven. So, and they are really trying and giving it their all. And then there are those that are in there who are doing different. There's those that say that they are, and those that are actually in there doing it. There's Robbins, there's the OG3.
Right.
And so
your sister says, Cory, my mom says that she feels like dad's military background affected the kids. He was used to people saying, yes, sir. Even his wives.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We were.
Yeah, it was a tough way to grow up. I can only
We were
imagine.
obedient.
Oh.
For the most part.
Yeah. Okay, my mom's. Oh, I got to catch up because we've got a lot of my mom's. I mean, we're way far behind on here. Let's see. We'll go ahead and talk for just a few more minutes. We've been doing this for almost 2 hours. Can you believe that? We'll probably come back and do another live on Wednesday. Is kind of what we're thinking. Let's see. We'll try to scoot through it. Okay. Yeah, grief is crazy. It's been grieving my brother has been crazy. Is the Darger the one with my 5 wives? No. Joe Darger, I don't think he's ever had his own show. Brady Williams was the one with my 5 wives.
Darger was on.
Yeah, Joe Darger's been on Sister Wives several times. So yeah, let's see if we can get through.
Now I say it sarcastically. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. And so somebody's telling me what to do. I'm like, no, yes, sir.
Yeah. So, yeah. People are saying,
but as a kid, I did it very seriously. Yes, sir. No, sir.
Yeah. No. People are saying, I can't believe that people would make comments like that. It's what it is it's the self-righteous people in the AUB who want to believe the best in everybody, or they're just ignorant to the truth.
Well, they can't believe that
this person that they put up on this pedestal.
Yeah, their spokesperson to God, the one that's guiding them, could never be what you just described.
Yeah.
So you're lying.
Yeah. So you must be lying because
Yeah.
my perception of this
You had
man is
that
reality, and he would never do that.
Yeah. Well, he couldn't be talking to God if he did stuff like
Well,
that. And so
That's why all my
you're
siblings wonder how he does.
you're attacking their belief system on who's talking that he's talking to God too. So
Right. So how is that your belief in polygamy? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading this question wrong. We absolutely
So
do not believe
how
in polygamy,
is that
which is why we talk
your
about it,
belief in
because we do
polygamy?
not believe in it in any way.
In fact, 39 of us grew up in a house together, and I would say two or three that are still
Mhm.
a part of the AUB. All the rest are no longer a part of the AUB. They're living their own lives elsewhere outside of it, have no connection, aren't any part of polygamy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And each child has a different perspective of the same parents. And this
Absolutely.
I totally agree with. So when we first started speaking out, I had a brother come up to me, not from my mom, from one of my other mothers. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, Mel, I am so sorry. I had no idea that what happened to you or that things were that way for you. I had no idea," because his experience was so completely and totally different than my experience was. And so, and he's been such a huge, great support to me now. And I absolutely adore him and his wife. And they've been very, very supportive, but he didn't experience the same things we experienced because his mom was the favorite wife. And so they never had the same type of experiences that we did. Let's see, I'm going to get down here.
what churches believe in polygamy? All of them.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Erica, for the super chat. We really appreciate that. Says, "I've deconstructed from my religion and I've been in therapy for years. What do you think of skeptics like me that don't believe in God?" I would say that I have very similar beliefs in source, but not necessarily in the way that it's described. I believe in a source, but in the way that it's described by people, I don't necessarily agree with. What do you think? Cory's going to be careful about how he answers this.
I don't want to mess with anybody's belief system. I mean, if you describe your God or your lack there of God, I believe that, yeah.
I mean, as we've deconstructed ourselves, it's the same thing. I feel like what happens is when you're going through religious trauma, and this is my own experience. I'm not a therapist. I have no idea. I feel like you deconstruct all the way down to believing in almost nothing.
Yeah.
And then you start to see the miracles in things, and you start to see and sometimes, and then I feel like for me, at least, then I started to see, okay, I believe in a source. Because I see these things, I've experienced some of these things. We've gotten into this a couple of times where we've mentioned we've done ayahuasca, and I've had those those spiritual experiences in that type of, but would I say that I believe in this being or this concept or this construct of what other people believe God is? I wouldn't say that I believe that. No.
Yeah, there are millions upon
and
millions.
We let our children make up their
millions upon millions of gods.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Which one?
And we let our children make their own decisions about what they believe that is as well.
Yeah.
Okay, this is funny. I would love to see Cory and Cody compete in AUB trivia contest. My money's on Cory to clean Cody's clock.
I probably could whoop on everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Cory did this in a family, not my family, but a different family. And they thought that he was just like, they thought he was cheating, that he had like a cheat code because they were playing, was it Bible trivia?
They were doing Bible trivia.
Or Book of Mormon trivia?
Well, they started with Book of Mormon trivia, and we whooped on them. So they moved to Bible like, oh, we're going to do it. And they're reading this questions off like, you're cheating. Where'd you get all these answers? I'm like, source code. I actually read the Bible.
I read the
book. So yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's hilarious.
Deleted a lot of that information.
Yeah.
A long time ago. So.
Yeah. And so Cory's very, very knowledgeable about a lot of this stuff, but sometimes he'll read something and then he'll be like, wait. And he doesn't always remember. And so then he'll go back and he'll, oh, yep, that's, and then he'll refresh his memory on stuff. Yeah, I've noticed this too. Y'all notice that Cody loudly proclaims his love for Robin a lot, but she never talks about her love for him. I've noticed that. We've noticed that. That's one of the reasons why we say that they won't last. And again, if the proof is in the pudding, we don't know anyone who has left the AUB under the circumstances that the Browns did and stayed together.
So
minus one couple that we've lost track of that we don't know where they are anymore. They could still be together. That would be the only exception that I know that has left the AUB and stayed together.
She's being protected by somebody named God. And so if she leaves him, when she leaves him, she'll probably hook up with. So we'll probably figure out who that guy is.
Yeah, that's funny. Because I don't need your protection, Cody. God will protect me in this tell-all. Yeah. Thank you, Share Bear, for that super sticker. We really appreciate that. Someone says, yeah, that was so kind of you. You don't believe the Williams were happy. No, I don't. I didn't say that. I just don't. Yeah. I think they were as happy as they could be.
They're doing the best they can in there. So that's the thing. There's love. There's love within the AUB. There's love within these families to the extent that one man can love 4 different wives equally. I'm just saying I didn't see a family and a thing that has the bliss bed of roses that Cody and Robin
that they profess it to be,
with all 4 wives or all 5 wives or all 9 wives. So
right.
I didn't see it. So, and again, I just grew up as a kid in it. So if you guys have these, if you guys see something different, awesome. I'm just giving my perspective, my point of view growing up in it. So it's hard.
Right. And so I think do I think the Williams are unhappy? Not necessarily, but do they maybe regret living this way? Yeah, they've expressed that openly on TV. They've expressed
and they seem a lot happier. So I'll give them this. Polygamy might be working if you're not part of they seem a lot happier now that they're not part of the AUB. So that might be the trick.
Yeah.
That might be it right there. If you're not a part of a community who is telling you what to do and how to do it, you might be happier in polygamy. So figure it out. That might be the magic pill, is to leave the AUB and live your polygamy.
Well, and the reason why I'm hesitant when I answer some of these questions, because I don't want to speak for another family. I don't know what goes on. Now, a couple of his wives were some of my very best friends growing up. Yeah. And so, but I haven't been around them for years. And so I don't know what their family structure is now. I have a lot of respect for Brady, that he has been able to navigate his way through leaving the AUB and keeping his family intact. I've never seen that. Exactly. Brady's the first person I've ever seen do that.
Especially since he was taught that he needed to live this way. Then he had a question of faith, and he still chose to, mad respect, still chose to, no, I've created a family. I'm going to still believe some of the tenets and see if I can do it. I have mad respect for him on that. So that's amazing. And if he can do it, you know what I mean? Right.
Well, and here's the thing, is a lot of times when people leave the AUB the way that, let's say, Brady Williams' family did, so many of his wives stay behind, because they're taught if they leave with him, they're going to hell too. They're going to outer darkness. They're now sons of perdition, whatever you want to call it. They're just as guilty for leaving. And so I had to give Brady a ton of kudos for being able to leave and keeping his wives, because literally I have never seen that happen. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the wives will stay, and then they'll be recycled into other families, and this is what happened to my best friend that married my dad, is that, she was married to Cory's brother, and he decided to leave the AUB, and he had 3 wives at the time. 2 of the wives stayed and 1 wife went with him. So you just don't see a man leave and all of his wives leave with him. That says that Brady's doing something right if his wives want to stay. Yeah. So, but do I think they're overall like joyous and happy they live this way? No, I don't.
It's one of the, do you feel like that you had a choice? Well, yeah, I had a choice getting married. They had a choice on doing this too. They're honoring that choice. They've made connections with that. That is awesome.
Right.
That is amazing that they're doing that. If they knew now what they know, would they do it all over again and have, or would they go, you know what, we're going to have a smaller family? I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people would make different choices.
A smaller family, knowing my kids.
Well, and we've even said that, oh my gosh, we're so glad that we didn't get into this religion. And then in our 50s or our 40s or whatever, go, oh shit, what did we do? And now there's 5 wives and a dozen children that now we have to navigate, like breaking that family apart.
Yeah.
And so it does say something about Brady that all of his wives chose to stay with him and chose to stay with
the guy.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm saying I'm hesitant to say, like, I don't want to sit here and trash on Brady because he's obviously doing something right. But would I say that his family is happy living this way? No, I wouldn't. So anyways, we killed that one. We talked that one to death. But
yeah, they're the happiest of the 2 choices.
Yeah, so. Exactly. That's what we said earlier. Yep. In this religion, you're given choice A or choice B, and you make the best choice.
And they're doing the best with choice B. So.
You make the best choice out of the best choices you have. And sometimes those are just shit choices. And there's just no way to get around that.
Him and his wives risk damnation by leaving the AUB based on their thing.
Right.
So
they're willing to take up damnation over walking away from Brady. Yeah. That says something about somebody. Okay. Somebody says, are you talking about your sister's interview on cults to consciousness? I could hear her trauma in her voice. It was a very good interview, but very emotional. So yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. So she did a video that was released a couple of weeks ago, maybe. And so, yeah, she did a great job. One thing, there were some things that were said in the video that I did not agree with. And I want to be careful about the way that they're expressed. I didn't necessarily agree with, but everything she said about my dad, I absolutely agreed with. Everything that she expressed about the way she grew up and some of the things that she expressed, I absolutely agreed with. And so give her kudos. It's hard to talk about those things. It's hard to, and where she's still navigating a good chunk of her healing, then yeah, you can hear the trauma in her voice even more so. But yeah, there were some things she talked about that I did not agree with, that I really struggled with. But again, we had 2 different experiences growing up.
Yep.
And let's see.
It's not that I had a different version of growing up than my sister Katie on here did too. So we have 2 different stories. So
yeah, but it's talking about other people's experiences. That's where I have a really struggle, is when we talk about other people's experiences and maybe give so many identifying factors that can be a little bit tough. So I'm trying to navigate how I say that carefully. But I do we will talk about that more later. So one thing I agree with Cody on, polygamy is not conducive to intimacy. And yes, away from the AUB, it probably halos. And I agree with you on this, but the whole point is not to have intimacy in your relationships. The whole point is to glorify God and to glorify your husband.
Yeah.
And it's not if you're in it for the intimacy, you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
In their teachings.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So,
I like intimacy, but that's why I'm sticking to
just one wife.
One wife. So,
I saw an interview a while back with Brady, and he says the mistake he made was he thought you were supposed to be in love with the people you marry, unlike many men in the AUB, which is why he stayed with all of his wives the rest of the rest of it is right here, stayed with all of his wives after no longer believing in the religion or polygamy. And so that is what's tricky about this religion, is so many people marry for the obligation of it, or the duty, or the responsibility, or the calling. And other men do it for the love, or the intimacy, or the relationship.
So he was picky and choosy, and made sure he was in love with each wife as he.
Right. Which I think kudos to him for doing, because not everybody does that. And now Cody's backpedaling and saying, you know, I was never in love with them, or I didn't have that intimate connection, or I was doing it out of responsibility or obligation. So you see that a lot too. Okay. Lamb says, thank you so much for that super chat too. Says, have you ever heard of Rockland Ranch? Yeah. In fact, a lot of those people are, quite a few of them come up and intermingle with the AUB. I know quite a few of the people personally, and I haven't had anything to do with them in years, however, but yeah, they come up to AUB dances. They'll interact a lot with the AUB community. A lot of their siblings or relatives are very much intertwined with a lot of the AUB members. We'd have to look it up, and I'd have to show you, who I'm referring to. Okay. And a ton of their people always pop up as Facebook suggestions, because we have 100 million friends in common. And so,
she would know that. I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So, or probably do, but.
Okay. I thank you, Catherine, for saying this, because sometimes my mind goes a little bit blank when I'm talking. And so I'm trying to like figure out the best way to say something. And this is a great way to say it. Brady seems like someone with integrity, but the lifestyle seems incompatible with happiness. Thank you. Thank you perfectly for putting into words what I was trying to stumble over. But that's exactly what I believe with Brady too. Okay, let's see. Love your sister. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. She's really been going through. Now, we won't go into a lot of that kind of trauma on lives for sure, because there's just too much energy going on around in the lives. But I have talked about some of those things on the videos that I've made, where it's just more of the energy. I can control the energy of what's being said a little bit more. And then we will make some more videos where we can control more of that energy. But in lives, there's just so much stuff going on that talking about that level of trauma that Emily has talked about is a little bit deeper, Yeah.
And we do lives for the comedy.
Yeah, we do lives for the comedy for sure. For sure. And so we try to keep it a little bit more, maybe lighter in the lives than we would if we were to do a regular video. But yeah, we definitely are wanting to do another video on Q&A. I have like about 50 screenshots in my phone of questions that I've gotten that I want to answer. So we're going to be doing that here pretty soon too. But yeah, so if you have anything, the best way to get them to me is to email them to me so I don't miss them in the comments, because we're starting to get enough views. Thank you everybody so much. Yeah, we're starting to get enough views that I'm missing some of the comments. If I don't happen to just like log on when you leave the comment, then sometimes I'll miss it. And so if you have a burning question that you want answered, email me. Our email is right on our front page of YouTube, and email me that. And then we're going to do a Q&A where we're going to, right now we have so many questions. We'll probably have to break it up and do a couple of different ones. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, I think Brady had a lot of integrity. I think Brady's family has been so successful because of the first wife. She seems to be peaceful and supportive, unlike many first wives. I adore his first wife. She was one of my very best friends growing up. And yeah, I've always had a deep love for her.
Well, and it does say a lot for him that, because when he left the AUB, that each one of those wives were probably given encouragement to leave him and come back to the AUB, welcomed back in, that they didn't, tells you a lot about all of them. So yeah, whatever they're doing good. So
Murray says, we've totally failed this live. We were so serious. No, this is funny, but no, some of the stuff, like I did my Cults to Consciousness interview with Shalise I want to say it's been up for maybe a month now, maybe a little bit longer. And then my sister did hers in a 2-part series. And then Janae, right after my sister, she came from the AUB too. Cory grew up with her mom. And so because you and her mom are the same age, right? Or
Brady's?
Yeah. Bryn Allred. Janae's mom is Bryn Allred.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you grew up with her.
She's older than me.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Her sister and I were the same age.
Yeah. So Shalise had said she hadn't done a lot of AUB interviews. And so, yeah, you got all 3 of us back to back right there. In Janae's, like, yeah, Cory knew of her dad. And I don't know if you knew him that well, but yeah, some of her stories are horrible. I went back and watched some of her stuff, and that was hard to watch. So,
yep. For every good, there's a plethora of families within the AUB too. So for every Brady or Browns or anything like that, there's some pretty.
For every one good guy, there's probably 5 not so good guys.
So that's what you guys are seeing, the best of the best. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going on a little over 2 hours. So we are going to start wrapping up. Let's see. I'm going to answer this one. Hey, we saw how the OG3 took care of all the children. Robin, on the other hand, hired nannies. Was it common for wives to have hired help for their children? No, not at all. And of course, most of the help she had come in were her sisters or her nieces. They weren't actually. And so I'm curious if it was like an exchange. Hey, can I come and live with you? And for rent, I'll nanny for you. Something to that. So I kind of think that it might have been more of I don't know, but I think it would be kind of an exchange like that, where it wasn't that she was paying her to live there or, paying her to babysit.
No, the way we grew up, if one wife needed to go do something, it was, and you couldn't take your kids with you, then it was, hey, check in with this mother before you guys do anything, or go talk to your Faja. So
right. And we'll end it on this one. We need a couple Cory jokes. I missed the smiles and the laughter. The snarks are fun too.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
No, sometimes we just have, sometimes we have more funnier subjects to talk. Oh, let's play a drinking game next time. Take a shot every time someone says, oh my gosh, every time someone says polygamy, I'd be on the floor. And I've actually tried to take alcohol out of my life for a little bit. Just because I'm working on we got a son getting married in October. And so I'm working on getting stronger.
Yeah. My little brother, started losing tons of weight and getting all skinny and got alcohol out of his system. I'm like, dang it, that might work for me.
But we do love our whiskey. So it has not always been as easy for us. And I did have a Coke and whiskey on Saturday night. So that was a little bit like, dang it. But with him getting married, we're working on getting stronger, getting some muscle, and getting like healthier. Yep. So so thank you guys so much for joining us on this Q&A, and for our complete shit show at the beginning of our Q&A. I
think that's why we weren't as funny.
Yeah, we were so stressed.
I got all the funny stuff out while the computer kept going down. So I've been impressed. It stayed awake and going for a couple hours.
So So thank you guys so much for joining us. And thank you guys so much for the support on our channel. And again, email us those questions if you guys have any questions that you're just dying for us to answer. And we will get those answered for you. And we will be back probably Wednesday evening. I'm thinking we'll do a live.
Should we have you tell the humor and the joke? So 18-story building.
Oh,
guy goes off of it. The police were like, hey,
no, it was a nightclub. It was an 18-story nightclub. You have to put the nightclub in there.
You tell the joke.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, it'd be funnier.
I just said it. I said it to him as if I was reading a news article, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the police just confirmed that this guy jumped from an 18-story nightclub, and the police just confirmed that he was not a bouncer.
Yep. So that was her dark joke to me.
That was I am not good at telling jokes. That was the one I got out.
Why would the news report something like, oh,
I
you're
get it.
telling a
Oh,
joke.
he's not a bouncer. Oh,
Okay,
I get it.
I get it.
It's a dark joke.
it's
It's
a
not
dark
even
joke.
funny. I don't think it's appropriate for YouTube.
But I was completely impressed and surprised that you came up with a joke.
Well,
So
it was
usually
my
you can't do
delivery.
'em.
My
Yeah.
delivery was perfect.
amazing.
That's what got it. So,
All
all right.
guys.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Everyone have a great evening. Oh, and watch for our video. We're about to
Yeah,
upload
just
it
coming out.
here in just the next couple of minutes. It'll be coming out to in probably about an hour.
Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. I know I gotta go call him.